Hello, I'm Frances from Winstead Homestead. Welcome to my last harvest. Here in eastern Washington, it's gotten to in the 40s every night in the evening. So, unfortunately, my summer vegetables are not producing very well. My tomatoes aren't turning reds, and I'm setting on very, very few of the squash, and the cantaloupe aren't growing or ripening anymore. And even the green beans are not growing very much. I've gotten down to one picking a week last week. I don't even know if I'm going to have very many that get large enough to pick this week. So I started cutting off some of the plants and giving them over to the chickens. They, of course, love them. But there are definitely some squash plants that don't even have any small squashes on them anymore. This is the last of my zucchini. I've got quite a bit of it, and I've already froze a lot of chunks as well as grated. So what I'm going to do now is do some spiralizing. I've been making zucchini noodles using this spiralizer that was given to me as a Christmas present from a friend a couple years ago. And it makes wonderful zoodles, zucchini noodles. And I've been looking online to see if I can preserve them in some way. And it looks like I might be able to freeze them. So that's what I'm going to do with the last of these zucchini. I've been doing them as we need them, but there's just too much zucchini and I've got to put it up in some way. So that's what I'm going to do. And so I've been giving them over, the same with the cucumbers and of course the watermelon. I did harvest a watermelon from each of my watermelon plants that were delicious. The cantaloupe, I ended up with one cantaloupe, but it was enough to save seeds for, so I'm happy for that. And it was okay. It would have been nice if it was a little sweeter, I guess. So we're starting to clear the space and getting it ready for the winter. As you can see here, my cucumber plants are all turning yellow. So I've already picked whatever cucumbers, little ones, I could use to make some sweet pickles with. This is the last of my cucumbers. I'm going to be fermenting them, and the smaller ones over here, I will be putting them in a sweet pickle brine. The rest will be dill pickles. I have already done fermenting once a couple weeks ago, and I liked it a lot. I'm going to keep doing it. It's worked out really well. And I'm going to take out the plants and give them to the chickens. As you can see, I'm still having a steady battle with the critters. They're popping mounds up through my cucumbers and green beans. I have some Craig atomic grape tomatoes over here that have constantly been ravaged by mounds, making it difficult for watering. And also through the melons, lots of mounds have been coming up. And even back by my onions and cherries and sunflowers. So I'm kind of ready to just let it go. This is my butternut squash. And I've been getting some, they've finally been turning color. So I want to harvest these. They've got a good shell on them, so they're ready for storage through the winter. I have a few that still have a little green on them. I might leave one or two vines just to see if those might still color up, but sadly, we don't have the temperatures, so we'll see. able to harvest 6, but 8 of them still look a little greenish, so I'm going to hope. I might leave them there for just a little longer just to see if they're going to ripen just a little more before I pull them off the vine. I have just a few honeydew left. I'm going to take one and see how ripe it is. Hopefully it's okay and I'll feel safe about getting the others. This one seems to have the most yellow on it, so I'm hoping it'll be a little sweeter. So the corn has done all that it's going to do, which wasn't much. I probably got some seed so that I can try again another year. It definitely needed probably more water, better soil, maybe some better fertilizer amendments. Hard to say. I'm going to do some research. It was sure pretty while it was growing. I am harvesting the stalks and giving it to the chickens and letting them have whatever they like, and then I run it through the wood chipper for compost. I'm not pulling them up out of the ground. I'm just cutting them off just below ground level, and then we will amend because we are doing the no-till. Very excited about my cherry tomatoes. My yellow cherry tomatoes have really colored up. They had a lot of green ones on it, and I only would have 1 or 2 yellow ones at a time, just to munch a little bit. But now there's a whole bunch of them, so I'm going to harvest these and get them inside. It'll be the first time in a long time I've had cherry tomatoes to take inside, but I didn't just eat the 1 or 2 that were ripe. So that's the cherry tomatoes that I propagated from these yellow cherry tomatoes. They're almost the same size. This one's getting up there though. This will make an amazing yellow bruschetta, which I can't wait to try. I'll show it to you when I get it done. It will be wonderful, I'm sure. I'm going to pick some of the basil that I have growing with the tomatoes to go with it. That's probably enough. I also want to pick a couple bell peppers for the tomato sauce I want to make. I make a all-purpose tomato sauce that I can make into Italian or Mexican or pizza. I put bell peppers and onion and garlic in it. Oh, aren't those beautiful? Those are some of the best bell peppers I've ever grown. I also want to pick some of these poblanos. But we're going to be making some chili rellenos with these poblanos. I am very excited about that. That is a beautiful bunch of poblanos. As you can see, my tomato plants leaves are turning yellow. So I'm going to be picking the last of the tomatoes. Hopefully, a lot of them will finish ripening, the ones that have some blush on them. And the ones that don't have any blush and don't turn red at all will use for some green tomato mincemeat. But they are all just yellowing out. It's just too cold. The leaves are changing. I'm going to start with the red one. Now I'm picking the green one. So I got a lot of green tomatoes, but they don't go to waste. Green tomato mincemeat is something that my mother always made with green tomatoes when you came to the end of the season. And I always make a batch of that each year when I grow tomatoes, and the temperatures drop and they're just not going to ripen anymore. But we've also started in the past few years making salsa verde with the green tomatoes. Now traditionally, of course, salsa verde is made from tomatillos, and we made some salsa verde with those that we grew. But actually, salsa verde is very delicious made with green tomatoes. We love our salsa, and so we'll be able to make lots of salsa verde with these tomatoes, as well as the green tomato mincemeat. I'm also picking the last of my yellow tomatoes. They're so delicious. They have made the best fresh salsa. It's just so sweet. They're just delicious. The yellow tomatoes, I'm taking anything with a blush of color because they can still ripen inside. The tiny green cherry tomatoes are a lot harder to work with when they're so little, so I probably will not be worrying about them. More bruschetta. One of the things I'm not going to be pulling out is the kale. They have been producing for months, and I have kale whenever I want it. There's lots of plants here, and except for some bug damage that some of the plants didn't survive, they've been doing really well. And when I was in Tacoma last year, it was growing through the snow. So I will probably just leave these in and let them grow as best they can through the winter and harvest them when I need them instead of worrying about trying to preserve them in some way. Another thing that I'm harvesting is my sunflower seeds. I've planted sunflowers in a large part of the interior, the fenced yard, with the hopes of growing a lot of the feed for the chickens for the winter. I did get some pretty good sunflowers. They didn't get very tall. I did get some really good ones, and I've been giving them to the chickens as snacks instead of as their sole feed anyway. I just have been placing them in, and it's really cool just to peel off the center blossom here, and it's just got rows and rows of sunflower seeds. And it's really beautiful. It grows in a really beautiful pattern. But there's plenty of opportunity to give these to the chickens, and so I'll be doing that. I'm really grateful to have chickens. And I am grateful for the harvest that we've had this year. It's definitely been a learning experience, but we've had a good harvest. And I'm looking forward to bumping that up next year, now that I know a little more about the area. And I'm very grateful that you're joining me on this journey. I'm excited to show you all of the food that I've been able to preserve this season. And I hope you join me next week. Until we meet again,